This video is sponsored by Squarespace, but more on that a little later. Hi guys, welcome here. If you're new here, my name's Bethany. I'm the girl behind Well Loved Knits. Happy New Year! Happy 2023. I hope you guys are having a really good start to the year so far. As for me, it's gonna be a whirlwind of a year. I'm very much aware that that is the case because, of course, I gave birth to my son in September, and he's going to be going through so many changes this year that I just feel like it's gonna just slip through my fingers almost. So I'm really preparing myself, and I'm mentally trying to be very present, taking things very slow. But it's already halfway through January, so, and I can't believe that that's the case. So I know that this is going to be a crazy but really awesome year for us. And I hope you can say the same about your year. I hope that there's some exciting things ahead and things to look forward to, especially maybe some goals that you would like to meet in 2023, things that you would love to aspire to meet, to reach. That's kind of what I want to talk about today, specifically knitting wise, things that I would really love to achieve, fiber related things, crafty things in 2023. Yeah, so starting off this year, I wanted to sit down for our little knit and chat and tell you guys what I'm thinking, what's on the horizon for me as far as knitting goes in 2023. So without further ado, let's get into it. I do want to talk about what I'm wearing. Of course, I'm wearing my Wednesday sweater, the one major FO of 2022. I'm pairing it with a very interesting mom do. That's what Roz says anyway, my husband. He said the other day he looked at me when my hair was like this and he just said, "Wow, you look like a mom." And I took it as a compliment, but I know exactly what he meant. My hair was absolutely messy. I was in a sweatshirt, I had spit up on me. I did not care. I was walking out the door as I looked, it didn't really matter. And he said in that moment, "You look like such a mom." So I'm really embracing that these days. I cut my hair, and that's why it's sticking up funny, because I don't have enough hair to do my normal twisted bun with the little clips that I have. So if I look a little silly, oh well. Yeah, so I'm wearing my Wednesday sweater. Really love this sweater. I've talked about it plenty. You guys can go back and look at some of the other videos, I'm sure. And I've talked about it at length, so I would just say that I recommend the pattern. Definitely go ahead and knit it for yourself. The collar is something that you might like, you might dislike. It definitely took me some time to get used to it, like how close it is to my neck, but it stretches out after a while, so it will get comfortable if it's not when it's freshly off the needles. So I'll tell you what we're gonna be knitting on while we're chatting. So I have two things in this bag, but I'm gonna talk about the one that I'm working on, obviously. This is not a podcast. I'm not gonna go into detail about all the other things that I have on the needles, but this one should look pretty familiar to you. I am very happy to say that I am off the yoke of my no frills sweater. This is a project that I had been hemming and hawing about. Do I want to knit it? Do I not want to knit it? And eventually I decided that yes, I do want to knit this pattern because it's such a staple piece. It looks like such a classic, well, it's a classic raglan, and it just looks like something that I would want to have in my wardrobe, that I would reach for very often. The thing that had been stopping me from knitting on it is that it's on, pretty small needle size. I don't even know. What is this? 4. Okay, that's not that small. But for me at the time, yeah, it was small. I have since worked with 4mm needles quite a bit, so, but that, and I just had heard that it was not the nicest knit process-wise, but finished object-wise, it's worthwhile. So yeah, that eventually just became the reason why I decided to cast it on and work on it. And also I was fed up with having this yarn in my stash. I've talked about it so many times, so I'm not even going to bother. Am I recording? Yes, I am. Okay. So I've talked about this yarn more times than I can count. So I'm not going to go into that. All I'm going to say is it's knitting for olive merino and mohair. They're two different types of like white. One's cream. I think the mohair is cream and this is putty or another off-white color. And they mix quite nicely to make this, off-white sweater, which is really nice. I decided, I was fed up. I was like, I'm going to cast this on. I just need to get this yarn into a project so that I can get it out of my stash. I was having a little bit of a freak out moment by the end of 2022, thinking, wow, I have so much yarn in my stash that I've just been saying that I was going to knit up for so long. Like, what is going on? I just can't seem to make up my mind with the project. So yeah, this is why I cast on this project, and working it up has been pretty nice. It's actually been really nice to have something so mindless, but then also something that doesn't grow so fast. I never was one of those people who wanted a project that kind of stayed on the needles. And I honestly couldn't really relate when somebody said, I'm happy to have this project that's just really slow going. I just didn't relate to that. It's not really in my nature as an Aries. I'm very much go, go, go. Let's make goals, set them, and finish them. Let's get this project done. I'm very much, motivated to get on to the next thing. So if I can finish my current thing to move on to the next thing, that's perfect. That really makes me happy as an Aries. So I was never one of those people that wanted something that was really, really like slow going, but I'm really enjoying it now. This is definitely one of those projects that I'm gonna be having on the needles for a while, but I don't really mind it. At the same time though, the yoke is done, so I have the body and the sleeves to go, which I'd say is pretty good. We're nearly there, we're halfway there. I don't know why, I always think that the yoke is halfway done, but it really isn't. Anyway, when I first started this project, I was thinking, ooh, am I gonna frog this? Because if you caught up with me when I was talking about it, I wanna say in a podcast episode, I had worked on a couple of rows of the yoke and I had done German short rows. So there's German short rows around the collar. So I was doing that and I noticed that the German short rows were making like weird bumps along the collar that was quite noticeable. I don't think you can really tell all that much now. So what I'm really happy with is that I stuck with this project because I was going to frog it and find another project. I was this close. I had that urge, like, is this gonna be exactly what I want? And I ultimately was just like, I'm gonna keep going. If I frog this yarn is just never gonna be used. It's gonna drive me absolutely crazy. So I decided to stick with it, and I'm really glad I did because doing the yoke in its entirety now, I feel like it's really distracted away from the German short rows, and obviously since there's more fabric, my eyes are not going immediately there. So it's kind of helped in that way. So persevering that's what am I trying to say? That is a reason why you should just keep going and, take a deep breath, see how it goes. Don't jump the gun, which is something, again, as an Aries, I have a hard time not doing. So that's what I'm gonna be working on today. Some mindless knitting. Definitely always need some stockinette when we're chatting together. And it gives me some opportunity to work on a project that might otherwise not get as much of attention because it's not the exciting project, that I've got on the needles. I've honestly been working on a lot of socks. So I have definitely turned a corner in my sock knitting mojo, and that is seemingly everything that I knit these days. That's all that I knit these days. And I'm really enjoying that. Again, for similar reasons. So I'm kind of going here and there all over the place, but that's just because I'm really excited to be talking to you, I think. So let me get into my intentions for 2023, knitting-wise. Before we continue on in this video, I just want to tell you a little bit about Squarespace, the all-in-one platform to build an online presence. I have told you guys about Squarespace before because they have kindly supported the channel in the past, and I really appreciate that and that they are willing to continue to do so. But not only that, I use Squarespace personally. They are the platform that powers wellofknits.com, which is my website. I would not have been able to launch a website without Squarespace because I really would not have known where to start. They really make everything easy. No matter what your site is about, you can do something for fitness, art, health and beauty, whatever it is. If you're an influencer, if you're a seller of online goods, you can create a website with just a few clicks. They have templates that you can browse for your specific topic, things that might be similar to what you're offering, and you can easily just input your content into those templates. Not only that, those templates are so easy to customize for yourself, which is exactly what I did. I just took a template that I thought looked really nice and that kind of fit my style, and then just tweaked it to my own needs. So if you're interested in giving Squarespace a try, go check out squarespace.com for a free trial. You can play around there, and when you're ready to launch your website, you just click the link in the description to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. So thanks again, Squarespace, and let's get back to our chat. This year, I have a theme for my mentality, my crafting mentality. I think now that I'm a new mom, I don't have a lot of time. I am definitely stretched a little bit mentally with lack of sleep, or just needing my son needing my attention, my husband needing my attention. I'm kind of split into multiple different areas, and that, I think, has led me to deciding that this year's theme is just knit it. Doesn't matter, just do it, just knit it. This is probably exhibit A on that mentality in practice. You know what? Just knit the thing. Stop going back and forth. Sometimes I'm gonna be much happier right now, much happier with yarn being used instead of going back and forth on what that yarn can be used for. So I'm definitely one of those people, at least recently, who's just had such a hard time making up their mind on what is the fiber going to be used for. And I feel like I spend so much valuable time debating that when I could just knit the thing that I originally intended and be happy with it. I really do believe that I'm putting too much pressure on the absolute perfect finished object when I much rather would have just enjoyed the process, enjoyed working with the fiber, instead of fretting over what is its perfect project, The yarn needs to be used. That's what's gonna make me happy at the end of the day. Yes, it's disappointing when the FO doesn't turn out exactly how you want it to, but now I'm just unhappy because I have all this yarn that I didn't actually end up using, and I have no FOs. So that is my main theme, is that I just wanna take less time fretting over what project to make. Again, I have very precious time, so my crafting time is limited to a certain small portion of the day, whereas I used to have so much time to knit. It used to be basically everything that I did in my free time. So since it's much more precious now, I need to be decisive, take charge, stop going back and forth, follow my gut. Follow my gut is one of the things that I want to do crafting-wise this year, is to just know my initial gut usually is what's going to make me happy. And that was the no frills sweater for this project. I really wanted to do that, but then I got distracted by other projects and I didn't cast anything on. I was just looking at the yarn being like, maybe this would be good. Maybe this would be good. You get the idea. As long as it's something that I wanted to knit and I'm interested in working on it, I don't want to force myself either with a project, but if I have the motivation and the inspiration to work on that project, I'm gonna follow my gut and work on it. And I think that will help me reduce my stash as well as enjoy this hobby a little bit more instead of, trying to be perfect about it. Along that theme, I want to enjoy the little things. So I want to enjoy those slower projects. Like I said, this project is definitely more slow going. It's going to take me a while, and I'm enjoying it right now. I feel like now every time I pick this up, I feel good because I'm not rushing myself to finish. And I feel like I've done that a lot in the past. It's just my nature. Again, like I was saying before, my personality. And I think last year I was working on a lot of sweaters for Arthur and the baby knitting marathon. There was definitely a deadline for that. And it was fun working along a deadline, but I don't really have that right now for this year. I don't really foresee myself doing anything similar like that again, where I have this firm deadline and I need to knit a bunch of things by that deadline. Maybe for Christmas again this year I will do that, but again, that's not for the entirety of my year. It's only for a small portion of the year. But until then, for these first months, the first half of the year especially, I'm going to just take it easy and enjoy every moment that I can pick up my needles, because again, it's not all the time anymore that I can do that. Enjoying the little things also project-wise, because I'm really into the smaller projects, the things that I can pick up and move around the house as I'm playing with Arthur during the day, or if I'm going out. I also really enjoy having something smaller that is just easier also to remember what I'm doing. So that's why I've been really enjoying socks lately. I have a pair for my husband on the needles, and that has just been a lot of fun to work up. And I have some for me. And it's also, I've gotten to a point with the socks that I have two patterns that I'm really loving right now. The Everyday Sock Pattern by Petite Knit, which has always been my absolute favorite. And then now I'm really into the Bear Paw socks by Andrea Mowry, it's just Bear Paw socks. And her DRK Everyday socks. I'm interested in those as well. And I've gotten to a point with the Bear Paw socks that I kind of know the steps. So I don't have to think too much, and I can move on from each step without really any interruptions, which has been really nice, and I've been loving that. Since I have been a sweater knitter for the most part, that's the main thing that really motivated me. It's kind of refreshing to have these smaller projects that are more exciting. Now, I was somebody who really didn't have any time for accessories. If you asked me if I would prefer to knit up a sweater or a scarf, I would just be like, why on earth would I ever want to knit up a scarf instead of a sweater? Or gloves for that matter. But like the fingerless gloves that I made recently, there's a video for that in case you're interested. That has also sparked me. I've made some hats. I'm really interested in using those, I'm really interested in working up projects like that because, again, since I have limited time, they are also projects that I can easily work on and finish, and that I won't feel so guilty about, because since it's such a small thing, it's much different abandoning a little hat than it is abandoning a whole sweater. And I have quite a few unfinished objects from last year that is making me feel so guilty, but we'll get into that another day. Stash-wise, I also have a goal for this year. Another intention that I have is to really reduce my stash. And this is something actually left over from last year. So one of the main goals that I had last year was to knit only from stash, which I did with mild success. Granted, I had the baby knitting marathon that I did not foresee when I originally made my knitting plans. Obviously, I didn't have all the yarn to knit a lot of baby items, which is why I ended up buying so much yarn for that purpose specifically. And then my yarn that I already had in my stash just languished, I didn't give it that much attention. I definitely gave it a try. Any other project that was not baby related, I definitely tried to work from stash specifically. And I think I did it again with mild success, but still I have a lot of yarn in stash. And honestly, I think I'm going to go through it and be really, really strict or really harsh with the fiber and look at it and say, okay, it's been in your stash for X years. Some of it has been 3 years since I started knitting again. And then, so 3 years, maybe 4 years. That's a lot. And if I haven't knit it by now, I think it's safe to say that I'm not going to. And what I really want to do is clean that out and really limit the yarn that's in my stash for things that I can see myself really knitting on. And another thing I'm going to be really, really strict about is not to welcome any more sweater quantities to my stash. I want to get into a habit where if I want to knit something, I'm going to source the yarn immediately and then work on the project immediately instead of purchasing sweater quantities of yarn, welcoming it into my stash, and then kind of forgetting about it. Because especially for me, I don't know, maybe this is for you as well. I'd be really curious to know. I have a feeling that it's more common. It's just that if it's been in my stash for a long time, it's not top of mind. And if it's not that brand new yarn, I kind of just, I'm not interested or inspired with it or by it. I feel as though if it's not top of mind for me, I'm not going to think about it and I'm not going to want to knit with it. And if it's been sitting there, it's stale, it doesn't have that exciting newness that we all really love about yarn when we purchase it. I feel like shopping for yarn is such a fun hobby in of itself. But I cannot deal with the yarn piling up. I get really excited when it comes in, and then if I already have too many projects on the needles, I won't cast it on, and then I'll kind of forget about it, and that's really sad. I'd personally feel so much better if I stopped that habit altogether, and I got my stash to a point where the stash yarn that I have, things that I'll just be more comfortable with collecting that way, is sock yarn. So I think I'm limiting to my yarn purchases. Anything that I'm going to work on immediately can be sweater quantity, but if I'm not going to work on it immediately, I can wait on purchasing the yarn. However, if I want to welcome one skein or two that's specific for something small, like the accessories I mentioned, socks, gloves, scarves, hats, I'm more than welcome to doing that. But within reason, of course. I don't want it to get out of control. So I think I need to finish a pair of socks. I need to work with a skein of yarn before welcoming another skein of yarn for socks or something like that. I think that's how I'm going to work going forward, but I don't know. Maybe that's too good to be true. You didn't want to nap anymore? That's understandable. Finally, the last thing that I have on my list of knitting intentions, things that I want to do this year, is be realistic about what I can achieve. Because as you can see, I have my hands full and my life is a little bit different than what it was before. So having lofty goals about things that I can get done, it is what it is. I make all of those what I want to knit, like seasonal videos, things that I'll knit in fall, spring, summer, and they never really come to pass. Maybe 1 or 2 of those projects get on the needles, but I definitely don't finish them within the season, and I see that as something that is just not going to happen in this phase of my life, so I'm going to accept that. I'm not going to be harsh on myself, and I'm going to take this as a hobby. It's going to be fun, and I'm going to try to be... Let's just get you here just for a minute, huh? I just want to be more realistic about what I can actually knit, what I can get on and off the needles. This is a hobby that I get a lot of joy out of, and that's what it is. It's a hobby. While it is something that I'm very fortunate to be able to have as part of my income, it's still a hobby for me, and I still want to have that joy. I get a lot of joy out of knitting, and I don't want to put too much pressure on myself. And I feel like we kind of get that way. The entire knitting community, in some way, somehow, I've just observed that we take this hobby to something, maybe we stress over it. We are down on ourselves if we don't finish things. And yeah, that can be it can be just stressful because you spend money on things, you spend time on things. If they don't turn out the way that you want or you don't finish them, that's definitely very frustrating. But to not put the pressure on ourselves, on myself, that's something I really want to refrain from doing. I don't want to put pressure on myself to knit all the things because I want to just enjoy the process. And again, it will get done when it gets done, you know? So those are my main knitting intentions. I would really love to hear if you guys have any goals that are making related. They don't necessarily have to be just knitting related. It can be all the fibers, anything that you are really into these days. Maybe you want to pick up a new hobby. I've been looking at spinning. I am so close to getting into spinning, but it's the last thing that I need to be doing right now. So I am admiring from afar all those people who are getting into other fiber-related crafts, for sure. I didn't get anything done on this project, but you know, it's there for me whenever I need it. And that's the point. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for sitting down and knitting with me. I always really enjoy our little chats. If you liked this video, definitely give it a like. Maybe subscribe if you want to stick around. I cannot believe we are so close to 100,000 subscribers. So if you haven't already, definitely subscribe. That would mean so much to me, and it definitely helps me out as well. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!